and was checked. The puck sat there for a moment. Now York is shot. Score! Cam York's first in the National, and it's 2-1 Philadelphia.
This is episode 97 of the Liberty Yell. Danny Deemer here with Chris Stumpo.
As always, how are you, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing well. We got a week until the draft. We got a new set of jerseys revealed. When was the last time the Flyers have switched up their home and away jersey? Has that been out on Twitter today, by any chance?
I actually haven't seen that. That actually would be a pretty cool thing to go back and see. When was the last time? It has to be before 2010, obviously, right? So,
yeah.
Like 2008-ish, maybe? Like, didn't we use... I don't know. We were both 7 and 8 years old, so it's kind of hard to go back and remember that. But, like, probably around that time. So somebody who's older and is listening, correct us. But long story short, it's been a very long time since we've seen anything remotely close to a uniform change like this. Obviously, they haven't touched the logo, which they never should. But first impressions, I like them, Danny. Would like a little black trimming on both, but all in all,
I agree. But I've come to peace with it. Like, I'm just accepting it for what it is, and I think it still works. It's still good enough. Like, obviously, I think it just fits to have that black piping in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think just more like just for OCD purposes. Like, I'm just like something's missing here, but it still works, and I still like it, and it feels like a big deal because it is a big deal. I mean, that's a home and away jersey change for a team that doesn't change their branding often.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited for it. The away jersey looks clean. I really wish they did more with the black. Like, I mean, Jesus, they love that 2017 Stadium Series black. Like, they were just... The players must love it. That's the conclusion I came to today. I was like, the players just must feel different when they wear that. Because I don't know. I don't know why they love it so much.
I can't stand how big the numbers are with that.
Just blocky as fuck.
Yeah. I agree. But, I mean, every time they put them on, they do play well, so... Maybe you're right. Maybe the players have put on. But I've also kind of bought into this conspiracy theory that, well, I guess it's not really a conspiracy theory. It's just a rumor that obviously we had that Stadium Series game with the Devils now, and they still need a jersey to come out for that. So maybe they come out with something similar to the old black jersey, which would be awesome.
Oh, my God. If you have an old, like, 90s, early 2000s styles Devils jersey up against the Flyers black from that time, that's amazing. I would love that so much.
I think they should.
That'd be great.
I really hope it's true because those are probably my favorite jerseys that they've ever had. I mean, can't really think of a jersey that's come out recently that I've liked more than those. Theirs are just really nice.
Yeah, they're my most recent favorite, but I have to say the 90s orange, the one Lindros wore in the finals, that orange one, it's just up there for me. That one's iconic to me. I don't know why. And I never even watched them play in those. Yeah,
that's like the
thing. Just,
we both like the jerseys that we honestly weren't really sitting here watching like we are now. We were little back then. And it's funny how we both like jerseys that really weren't from when we've been watching.
It's just, I was just tired of the traffic cone orange. Like, burnt orange is the Flyers. It is.
It is.
I mean, you go back and watch those 2010 crowds, even the T-shirts in the crowd, like the Wachovia Center at the time, it was burnt orange out, even though the jerseys were traffic cone orange. Like, it's just our brand.
Well, you made a really good point today when I was talking to you. You were like, you can see errors you can see all the different errors in the jersey. Like, they came out with a video maybe an hour, maybe half hour after they dropped the reveal video of designs that they've kind of gone back to from like the 60s. I mean, not the 60s, the late 60s, the 70s, even like the 80s and 90s, obviously with the burnt orange. But I mean, it's pretty cool how they've gone back and kind of like nodded their heads to past errors, and like the white numbers on the jerseys, on the away jerseys. Oh no, on the home jerseys. I'm sorry. Like that's a nod back to the 70s team who had the white numbers on their sleeves, I believe. So it's really cool how they're kind of doing that, and with Keith Jones talking over the video as well, that was pretty cool. So I like them. That's my first impression. Obviously, the black ones is still to be seen with those, but all in all, I'm excited, man. Like you said, a new era of orange. That's the slogan. So I guess I'll go with it, even though it's not my favorite.
I love the way they encapsulated all the different eras into the design. I love the way they explained it. I think it needed to be done. Like, I was of the mindset, you bring back the 90s jerseys, just straight rip it, bring it back, modernize it. But after seeing it, I don't know, I've kind of changed my thinking a little bit, because if they build a team the right way, and this team is good, perennial Stanley Cup playoff team, and they become a team that 10, 20 years down the line, we look back and be like, remember that Flyers team? That's going to be the jersey they're going to be wearing. And it really all depends on what they do from here on the ice, because that's all that matters. But I could easily see us going back watching highlights of Gauthier 10, 20 years from now in the playoffs with these jerseys on, being like, man, I miss those jerseys, if we change.
Yeah.
But
see, that's why I love you, because you have the optimism just flowing through your body. I mean, as soon as we get these new jerseys, I mean, I feel you. I'm on the same boat, man. I mean, you can't, as fans like we are, you can't help but to go that far ahead and think about winning in these jerseys coming. That's the first thing you think of as a true fan. You think of winning in any jersey. So for sure. Yeah,
like those 90s teams, we love them, but they didn't win. 2010 team, we love them, but they didn't win. It's like, new era is needed, and imagine if they win in those jerseys. Then we won't give a fuck about what the jersey is.
Exactly. We won't be fighting over the black trimming. I mean, as I've seen on Twitter today, with a ton of people going, like, having like legitimate fights about it too. Like, it actually matters. I mean, maybe they'll listen. I mean, they have guys in that front office now that obviously will listen to the fans when they need to. So we'll see if they actually do. I mean, we've been pretty sure we saw the leaks like a month ago or a month or two ago, and we were talking about we need to put the black trimming in there, and it hasn't been done yet. Maybe they'll do it before the actual release comes, before they go on sale. That would be cool, but I doubt it. But either way, who gives a fuck, right?
The guy who leaked that was so on the money.
On the money.
Like, dude, it's the exact jersey. It's crazy.
Who
he
was
has like
that?
a graphic. I don't know. It's some guy. There's a guy on hockey Twitter who is just a master of everything jerseys. Like, he always has these announcements. Like, I don't even know his name, and I'm so sorry about that. But 2-3 months before one of these announcements even come by, he has the leak every time somehow. I don't know if he works at Fanatics or like
maybe
he might
has a friend that works at Fanatics or something,
and he got a shipment, and he's like, "Whoa, new Flyers jerseys."
But speaking about looking ahead to winning in these jerseys, the first thing I think of with winning with this current, I mean, not this current core, but I mean this current core of young players coming up, you automatically think of Tyson Foerster, right? And since our last episode, he was named to the AHL's top prospect team, along with some pretty notable names. Wallstead was in there, Jiricek was in there, so it's pretty impressive to see a kid on that kind of list, because those other guys are going to be NHL players. Obviously, Tyson Foerster is going to be an NHL player. Whether or not that's a top line guy or a middle six guy, we'll see. But I mean, 7 points in his first 8 NHL games last year. He did not look out of place at all. So you can't help but get excited to watch number hopefully 71 Foerster in these new jerseys sniping next year. So it is. There are things to get excited about. It's not all doom and gloom over here in Flyers land right now, Danny. I mean, there is aspects of this team, of this front office as well, that I'm personally excited about, man. I mean, we got this draft coming up, 7th overall. I mean, you can't help to be optimistic. I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody for being optimistic. I mean, you have these people on Twitter, especially Twitter, who are like, and I get it, nothing's really happened yet. Absolutely. Like, we can do all this talking. Mm-hmm. We can do all this fucking, you can give me all the jerseys that you want. But at the end of the day, it matters about getting the right players in these jerseys. And I totally get that, but you can't sit here and blame people for being excited about this, about the change in the front office, about the new jerseys, about the draft coming up. It's just, I don't see the reason why you have to just be the Grinch when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I'm excited. You're excited. I mean, my fucking dad's excited. I mean, anybody I talk to that I'm trying to get back into the Flyers, anybody I see at work, I'm just like trying to talk them back into it. Because anytime the Flyers are involved in any kind of discussion, it's just bashing on the team, and that's what it's come to. And this front office recognizes that. Keith Jones is just so honest with us when he knows, like, that's, I mean, he's been on the radio for the last how many years? He understands that. He's been in the media. So it's, my main point, I'm not going to blame anybody for being excited for this. This is, right now, the season might suck. We're not going to be the best team in the world. But right now, I'm feeling good, Danny. I'm looking forward to things.
It was always salvageable. There was always something there to be salvaged. It was the people in charge of doing that job. I had no trust in them, and neither did any of the fan base. And that always had to be step one, first domino to fall, all the shit we said over the summer. And it finally happened. And now you have a regime in here who in one trade, in one move, have shown you more creativity than the last two regimes, have shown you more risk than the last two regimes, more commitment to a direction. Like even Hextall, who is looked at as the rebuilding guy here, he didn't rebuild like this. He didn't commit like this. He middled. He did patchwork as well. And so just seeing a full commitment to the direction of we're going to be bad now, but when we arrive, we're going to arrive. It's what we've been waiting for. It's what we've been begging for years. And even if we didn't necessarily wanted to admit it to ourselves, some years we wanted to squeak in the playoffs with Giroux and Couturier and win. This had to happen.
Yeah.
It had to happen eventually. It happened too late, actually, but it's still salvageable.
I mean, look at Frank Seravalli's list today. We talked about that on text, about his trade target list that just came out today, and he got about 6 Flyers on that list. And I think he has 35 players total on the entire list. You got Kevin Hayes at 3, Travis Konechny at 10, Scott Laughton at 12, Tony DeAngelo at 18, Carter Hart at 24, 36 is Travis Sanheim. So, I mean, if anybody's connected within the Flyers, it's going to be Frank Seravalli. And anything that he says regarding this team, I 100% believe. I mean, he's just one of those guys. So, if he has 6 Flyers on that list and he has 2 of those guys in the top 10, I think Konechny's number 10. Hayes is gone for sure. But, I mean, you got Konechny and Laughton pretty high on that list. So, heading into this draft, man, I'm ready for anything, man. I really am. The only untouchable is Cutter Gauthier. He also mentioned, so everybody else but Cutter up for grabs, which is, I mean, I'm ready for anything, man. Let's get the ball rolling. I really do think GMs around the league are just waiting for the draft to get closer before they make in these moves. That's what it feels like, at least, because I mean, you see nothing right now. We are in the dead space of of hockey off season. Right after the cup is handed out, you got that team celebrating and everything. So just trying to get through these last 8 days. We got 8 days. Yep. This time next week we'll be getting ready. So I'm excited for it.
Some of the names on this trade target list, how many years have we sat here on this podcast and said nobody's untouchable, someone's gotta go?
Yeah.
It has to be done. And that's what I'm seeing out of this regime. Like, there's 6 names on that list. They might only deal 2 of them, but it's the fact that you're doing your due diligence and looking in to the other 6. They're not untouchable. And that's the weird thing about Chuck Fletcher. He acted like so many of these players were must be extended, must hold on to him. He's a stud. And it just wasn't the case. Yeah. And I'm glad to see this regime kind of recognize and be realistic about where they're at in the timeline. And yeah, Konechny's a good player, but let's look at the timeline. Let's look at his asset value. Is it going to improve much more from here? Probably not. It's only going to decline. Like, looking at these things is just something the last regime, at least from my eye, didn't do. I mean, they might have had these conversations, but their actions spoke louder, and they didn't do it.
I mean, if Scott Laughton's apparently getting a first, what's Travis Konechny getting right now? Right? So you can't really turn down that trade.
And Carter Hart. Yeah. Potentially.
There's a lot of options, man. And obviously, we don't have any inside information of which one is going to come to fruition. Obviously, Frank Seravalli in that blog said that a couple days ago he was, and I'm talking about Briere, was close to a deal with Hayes. So this is just me saying this as a gut feeling. I feel like that trade is very close, if not the next couple of days, within the week at least. I mean, if he came close to a deal almost a day ago, and I get one deal can come close and you might not get a deal or talk about the deal again for another week kind of thing. I get that, but it just feels like inevitable to me, and it feels like it's starting to get to that time where he's going to get shipped. I think it's going to be before the draft, personally. So, if we're already getting these kind of leaks, so, you know?
He can't be here. All the talk they had about subtraction, building the standard, you cannot have Kevin Hayes played a season with the Philadelphia Flyers next year. You got to stick to your guns, stick to your word. I think it's a change that needs to be made for both parties, and I hope it happens.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That list is kind of eye-opening, though. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I know we've heard these rumors, but to actually see it from a guy like Frank it's pretty refreshing, to be honest, man. I mean, if I had to pick anybody on that list not to trade, it'd probably be like Konechny. But I mean, if somebody's offering anything worth value for him, I'm absolutely cashing in on that. So, I mean, we'll see. Frank Savarli is a guy who is definitely plugged into the Flyers, so he's definitely something to put in the back of the mind.
Speaking of plugged into the Flyers, Patrick Sharp,
Yep.
John LeClair are on board. We're just getting the whole gang back together. Everyone who wanted a cup in Philly and didn't get one, hop on.
Yeah, come back. Let's go. Welcome back to Philadelphia. And I know John LeClair has actually been living around, I think he's in Havertown. He's been living there for the last couple of years.
Yeah, he never left.
Yeah, never left. So, welcome back to the city, John. But, yeah, that's exciting. You also got Valerie Camillo, who left suddenly. I mean, that was kind of out of left field with the hockey stick. I don't know what happened there, but...
Yeah, with no explanation. Seemed like she was very on board with the process going forward. Don't know if something happened. Don't want to speculate, but it happened.
It did. But to go back with Sharp and LeClair, definitely pretty exciting hires. I know you're going to get those people who are going to start complaining that they're ex-Flyers and blah, 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 as if Patrick Sharp wasn't traded away when he was like 23 and had like a fucking 10-year career after. But let's keep complaining that they were ex-Flyers. That'll get us somewhere. But he's going to be working with the younger players in the developmental thing, so that's pretty cool. And then John LeClair is going to be working on the kind of more of the business side. So you said it on text. It's kind of cool to see how Patrick Sharp, knowing that we did trade him a little bit too early, will be working with the younger players in a developmental role. So
yeah, I really hope this whole thing works out, because on the surface, it's all storybook. It's all story. If it works, I can go on for hours.
Yeah.
Patrick Sharp, we trade him, he comes back. Like, I could just do that for hours. So there is an element of, you're genuinely rooting for these guys to succeed. On top of being optimistic, like I'm rooting for them. I hope I hope that the group that succeeds here.
But personally, do you? I mean, looking at the whole, like taking a step back and looking at the front office now as a whole, man, it's kind of coming together now. Like, they're putting the guys that they want around them, and this is me asking you directly. We all know that there's a lack of experience, right? Does that worry you at all? I mean, we know Keith Jones has never been in the spot that he's been in. We know Danny Briere is a rookie GM. You got LeClair. You got Patrick Sharp in their roles. I know Sharp's been around, but he doesn't really have that much experience in a front office type. I mean, in a player development kind of role. So, what are your thoughts personally?
It's definitely something. It's definitely a red flag. But I think the biggest piece at the end of the day is Briere. If Briere can step up to the plate, that's everything.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the guys aren't going to have too much of a problem filling into their role. Not to say Briere is going to have a problem filling his role. I just think that's the biggest what if, if you will. And I mean, early signs point to everything's good. And they took a gamble on him. I mean, they did. They think he's going to be the next guru in the National Hockey League. And you know what? I appreciate them taking the chance. I do. Because you could have went out and got another fucking Chuck Fletcher. You could have went out and, I don't know, got another guy who was just happy to fire loads of Comcast money to do patchwork.
Another recycle GM.
Yeah, the boys club. I used to be someone who joked about hiring former Flyers, and it's actually something I, in the past, said I wanted the organization to get away from. But this team strayed so far away from Ed Snyder's course that I think it has to happen. And I'm not going to be that guy no more that jokes about it. I think these are the only people who care deep enough to stick through all this bullshit. Like, you look at Keith Jones, he could have just stayed on TV doing Stanley Cup Finals games. Cushy job, great job, everyone loves him, there's no hate, but he threw himself into the fucking fire for a reason. You know? Like, that means something. That means something to me as a fan. And I said before I'm rooting for them, but I do genuinely think they're going to succeed. Lack of inexperience does worry me, but the care is there, the work ethic is there, the willingness to learn. If they make a mistake, they won't be scared to double back on it and maybe get rid of that player like just a year later. It's all about making the best team, best result. I'm here for it.
It's actually a pretty good point because Keith Jones kind of seems like the guy that would turn around a year later and kind of own up to a mistake that they made regarding a player or a trade that they made or anything. Like anything regarding the team and the name Philadelphia Flyers. I feel like he'd be a guy that if he got asked a question that maybe made him a little bit uncomfortable regarding like responsibility, that he would own up to it and just be honest with the fans. And I mean, that's the first step of kind of gaining the fans back, is just being honest with us. Because I feel like just Philadelphia, they're passionate fans who just want honesty and for you to work hard, and that's about it. If you work hard and you're honest, that's, I mean, if you being honest isn't the nicest thing to say at the moment, I think Philadelphia fans still kind of appreciate it. I mean, look at Alec Boehm, who literally said on the field, fuck this place, and got confronted in the locker room after the game, and he owned up to it, and like the fans were like, okay, I respect that. You could have sat there and lied about it and tried to weasel your way out of it, but you owned up to it, and we were like, okay, hop right back, Alec, and then look what's happened. You know what I mean? Like, we just want honesty, and we want you to work hard. And I really feel like Keith Jones is just a perfect fucking fit for that. And he just
John Tortorella, perfect fit for that.
So, I mean, that's my thing. That like you said, it worries you, absolutely. But at the same time, when I really do think about it, it's going to be a collaborative effort, and I do think each guy in that room is going to hold each other accountable. And like you said, just be honest with the fans and work hard. I mean, honestly, that's all we need. So I'm looking forward to it.
No pushovers. I think it's just going to be results oriented. Like, yo, I want the Flyers to win. That's the result. Like, that's the result everyone in that room is looking for, and it doesn't matter if they argue. It doesn't matter if they disagree. It doesn't matter if they make a mistake. At the end of the day, they're going to do what I believe is necessary to get that done. Whereas past regimes, there might have been pushovers in the war room. There might have been differing agendas. Torts may have had to tiptoe around the last regime. I don't know, but it feels more lockstep and together now than it did before. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, and that video that you sent me today with Ashlyn Sullivan's interview with Keith Jones. I mean, that was a little eyebrow raising, eh?
I always had a hunch they were thinking that way.
Right?
I always had a hunch because, I mean, you can't help yourself.
I mean, and that's what I mean with him being honest with us, though. I mean, he might be fucking with us, just kind of instill a little bit of hope. But I mean, that's still a pretty weird thing to say.
I think his viewpoint is, if they prove it to me, it is what it is. And I think they've said this before. I'm not entirely sure. Briere might have said it in the interview, but the players decided. If they come out this year and they're not gonna, but if they come out this year and like 3 of those guys break out and Couturier stays healthy the whole year and Konechny also has another 30-goal year, like maybe then they accelerate the course a little bit. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they keep playing the long game, but the players do decide it in the end. I mean, that's
absolutely
how these rebuilds always work. These rebuilds, there's always like, oh, we're going to be bad for 4 or 5 years, and then you get a good pick, and he pans out, and then a free agent wants to come here, and suddenly, just like that, you're revving up the engines, and like, it never plays out to full plan. But it was a little weird that he threw that in there after just a press tour of rebuild, this year's going to blow, rebuild. He throws that out there.
But you make a good point, and you're right. Briere has said it before when he said, I mean, he's been asked, how long is this going to take? How many years do you think they're going to be bad? Blah, blah, blah. And he's always come back to the main point of, I'm not going to put a number on it because at the end of the day, the players decide. I mean, like you said, we could have a couple players that break out. We could have a guy that we pick at 7 that is a stud. And whoever we pick turns out to be a superstar. I mean, you do not know. And not that us drafting a really, really good player at 7 would accelerate us to a Stanley Cup, but I mean, you could still be bad.
It could. It could, though. That's the thing.
But in the first couple of years that you draft that guy, you could still be bad and have that guy developing, and then get other picks and then develop those guys or use those picks to trade for a guy. I mean, it's like you said, it's just so many factors that go into it, and you really do not know how it's going to fall. And I really like the fact that that's the first thing that he's kind of hammer down into the fans and the media's heads is, hey, we're doing a rebuild, we're going to do it the right way, but at the same time, if the cards fall the right way, then I'm going to be a little aggressive here, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive there, kind of thing, you know what I mean? So with Keith Jones kind of throwing that in there, I mean, are they going after a really good young player who's 23, 24 years old that they want to sign to a longer extension? I mean, you don't know. So just throwing shit out there, Danny.
I mean, you look at a scenario where, like I said, everyone's healthy, guys break out. Let's say, I'm not saying Cutter and the 7th overall pick are gonna be superstars, but they could, and they that's a big thing. That's important. They could, and down the line, that could be just such a big jolt to the team. Especially, imagine a scenario where they're maybe slightly below 500 or 500 this year at full strength, and then we know that those guys are coming. That's an uphill climb. That's something as a fan, I'm tuning in nightly and I'm going, all right, we're not here this year, but we're going to add 2 guys next year, and this team already wasn't that horrific. And if they touch up the back end, especially, you touch up the back end and Carter Hart starts getting hot if he's here, I mean, I could see a scenario where I'm not talking playoffs or winning in the playoffs, but I can see a scenario where they're not a bottom feeder.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, they finished 31, 38, and 13 this year with everything essentially not going their way. I mean, young players played well, but Sean Couturier out for the year, Cam Atkinson out for the year, Konechny missed 20 games. It was a rough year, and they still were 7 games under 500. So I could easily see a scenario where this feels like an uphill climb. Like I said, I'm not expecting winning next year, but I'm way more optimistic than I was just 3 months ago. I really am.
I mean, I like you said, I mean, you don't know what Cutter is. I mean, Cutter could still be, not going to label him a superstar, but I mean, he looks like a really promising prospect. I mean, there's a stat that came out today on Twitter from Big Head Hockey. Boston College alum who had fewer points than Cutter in their D+1 season. Johnny Gaudreau, Cam Atkinson, Kevin Hayes, Alex Tuck, Matthew Boldy, and Chris Greider. And he also led Team USA as gold as a 19-year-old at the World Championships. So, I mean, not labeling him a superstar by any means, but he's another guy that could accelerate it a little bit. I mean, you don't really know. I mean, is he going to play left wing? Is he going to play center? I personally think he's going to stick at center because he played there all year at BC, and that kind of seems like where the Flyers want him. So, whoever we drafted 7, I mean, if fucking Zach
and 22.
Benson,
22 as well. I mean, you just never know in a draft this deep.
Zach Benson could fall to them at 7, and you don't know who could fall to them at 22, or if they use that 22nd pick and the Florida pick and move up. I mean, you don't know. There's so many factors. There's so many exciting things on the horizon with this team. Really looking forward to coming back and talking draft in about a week and a half, and sitting here and doing that, man. I'm really excited to get things going. Development camp, then hopefully training camp comes fast, but
what excites me is that is just what's on the way.
Yeah.
That's what's not already here. And we're big believers in guys like Frost. We think he's got a lot more to give. Farabee, I've had my gripes with him, but in the end of the day, I know he has more to give and probably will when he has a fully healthy season next year. Tippett, that's a promising season that could be built on, absolutely. We talk about Case getting some semblance of an offensive game, how big that could be. And then Tyson Foerster. And that's all that's here now and not what's about to come. Cutter Gauthier, the 7th pick, the 22nd. Break. And then you include 2024, which is going to look like to be a nice little crop for us as well. Like, we're going to have 2 first-round picks. Florida has a ton of injuries. They had a magical run this year. Who knows if they have all the pieces necessary to get them back into a position where that pick would be bad for us. Who knows? They might just finish on the bubble. They did this year. They just got in. And then just like that, you're looking at, what, a 6th overall pick and then maybe a 13th, 14th overall pick after Cutter Gauthier, 7 and 22. That's where I start to get optimistic.
That's top 10 protected, right? That Florida pick?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So need them to kind of have a good season, but not really that good. But yeah, man, don't forget about Cam York when you're mentioning that.
Oh my God, he was in my mind. Just didn't get it out, but he's absolutely a huge part of that. Big believer in him going forward. He's going back to his natural position. Yep. There's no longer a log jam. It's time for Cam York to shine. Like you just take all these things together, and that's why I'm excited.
I mean, you mentioned him going back to his natural position, and that's something that, I mean, me and you have sat in this pod the last couple episodes and really been hammering that down. Hey, it's not top priority. I mean, it was in my subconscious because I just really wanted him back there. But obviously a trade was going to happen within the defense, and getting getting Provorov out of here really does set him up to either play top line minutes or second pair minutes. But I mean, gets him back in the top 4 on his natural side, like you said, and
it had to happen.
Yeah, kid's 21 years old, 22 years old. I mean, the sky's the limit for him, man. I really do think he could be a number 1 defenseman who eats up 27, 28 minutes a game kind of guy. I mean, he skates so effortlessly, has the elite stick, just thinks the game so well. I mean, I really do. I mean, he's starting to get a little bit bigger, using his body more, and that's something that Torts has really been on him about, apparently. And I mean, we kind of saw him do that before he got sent back to the AHL last year, where he got a little bit too aggressive against the Islanders, I think it was, when he got walked. I forget who walked him, but he got walked and then sent down to the...
He's been walked.
Yeah, but like, it's something that they've definitely been in his head about it, but like, be more aggressive, use your body, like, you're not that small of a kid, and it is right, and I really do see number 1 potential with that kid.
I just think, though, like, when you're a young defenseman, I think you got to take those growing pains on the chin with him. I really do. Yeah. I don't think he should have went down for as long as he did. I kind of...
Didn't hurt him.
No, absolutely not. I've kind of, like, compartmentalized it a little bit. Like, I was like, okay, a couple games, whatever, it can't do no harm. But after, like, game 15 or 20 or so, I was like, all right, maybe he should be up here. Because out of all the guys on the defense last year, he's the only one that mattered. He's the only one that was important. Big picture, this is the guy, we need him to pan out. The other two, I mean, the writing's on the wall. It really was. It was for years. There was smoke behind the Provorov rumors for years. Travis Sanheim, I mean, he's on the trade. He just got signed to an $8 million no-move contract, and he's on the trade bait board right now. But
dude, that goes to, not to cut you off, I apologize, but it just goes to show you. I was talking to my dad at work today about this. It goes to show you how much, I mean, I think I've said this on this pod before. It goes to show you how bad that fucking move was by Chuck Fletcher. One last fucking middle finger to Philadelphia, dude. And that is just not the money itself. I mean, I personally think on the open market, Travis Sanheim is probably getting more by some team who overvalues him as a guy who's 6'4" and can skate, even though he loses a puck every time he enters a fucking offensive zone.
Or just, hopelessly throws it into nowhere every time.
But there's definitely a team out there that would 100% hand Travis Sanheim more than $6 million. 6.2, whatever the fuck he makes. But it's the no trade that's attached to it for the first 4 years. And it's the term. 8 years? I mean, I've said it before on this pod. 8 years is something you hand to Nathan fucking McKinnon. Or fucking Austin Matthews or Barzell. And 8 years is not what you hand to Travis Sanheim. Especially when the Flyers were in the position that they were in last year. I mean, it just... it was one last.
Didn't they bridge him twice?
Yeah.
Didn't they bridge him twice? Like, what the fuck were they doing with Travis?
I mean, speaking of bridges. Speaking of writing on the wall, I mean, if you bridge a player twice, doesn't that scream, hey, we're kind of iffy about you? And then you go and hand him an 8-year extension when your team is screaming rebuild? I mean, it was just one last nightmare that we had with this guy, man. And I'm so happy he's gone, and we're back to just having a sane person in office. And I don't mean to fucking like go at him, but I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, Briere has entered the realm, and I got half the fucking team on the trade bait list, man. It's so nice to feel like vindicated, if you will, with this guy, man. Like,
I mean, the fact of the matter is, and we've been saying it for years, that no one deserves to be off that list.
No.
I mean, no one deserves, and good teams do this, man. Like, you're not safe. You can't just lose here and be handed an 8x6 just for fucking losing. For getting
beat up by Nathan Gerbe. Like, seriously, man. I mean, like, that's not the only fucking reason. I just think he's a mint defenseman. But, I mean, this is a guy that should be one of the best defensemen in the NHL with the way he skates and how big he is. And he's just not. And he's 27 years old, and people talk about the guy like he's fucking Morgan Frost's age, as if he's like still 23, 24 years old.
As if breakout's on the way.
Yeah, I mean, we know what Travis Sanheim is, man. I mean,
he's declining now. He's old, dude.
How many full NHL seasons has this guy had under his fucking belt? I mean, we know what this dude is, and I really hope he can find something before this no trade kicks in. I mean, he's got fucking, what, 13 days? How long does June
And if
last?
he gets it done,
yeah,
I think another 11 days or so. And if he gets it done,
oh my gosh!
I mean, I don't want to hear anyone talking about, oh well, they got to do something. Like, you're being optimistic for nothing. Like, dude, the last regime held on to these two guys like they were gold. Like they were gold, dude. They held on to the entire team like they were gold. A team of losers. Have to say it. We said it all the time. How many times do we go on this podcast at the end of a season, like March, April, and we're like, nobody should be fucking safe with the way that they performed this year. There should be some kind of fire lit under their ass. Like, you're not going to get a player who is used to losing every year, hand him an 8x6, and suddenly he has the will to win. It's not going to work like that.
Nope. It's like I said, it feels good to see a GM come in here and be like, hey, this is fucked. Like, we got to move this guy now. I mean, he's got, like I said, half the fucking team on the trade list. And he's a guy like Frank, like I said before in the pod, locked in at the Flyers. So, I mean, obviously I don't think every guy on that list is going to get traded, but, I mean, a couple.
It's a fire under the ass, though, and it has to happen if you're picking top 5, top 7 in the draft every year. You can't just feel safe.
Especially this draft. I mean, we'll get into the draft in about, let's see, 4 or 5 minutes, but especially this one. He's drafting 7, and I think that's part of the reason why maybe Jones said that, to go back on the Keith Jones comment. If you don't know what we're talking about, go on our Twitter. It's on there. He said something with Ashlyn earlier this morning that kind of was eyebrow raising, but
yeah, I'll paraphrase it. He basically said, listen, it's going to be a long process and it might feel a little slow, but it could end up being faster than we anticipated, basically.
With a little smirk at the end kind of thing. And
yeah, which is fair. I mean, we know that. Like, if it, yeah, but like, we knew that. Like, if Cutter Gauthier comes out and he's a fucking superstar, yeah, that accelerates the plan a little bit. Absolutely. I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's exciting to think about what's coming up with the 7th overall pick, to go back on this draft coming up. I mean, to especially to be drafting where they are, and obviously we're gonna have these people who are still gonna bitch about the wins that we got late in the season and how we don't have the 4th or 5th pick. And I understand we're probably not gonna get Leo Carlson or a chance to get Michkov, but have no doubts we're going to get a really good player who, if not for Cutter Gauthier, probably becomes our best overall prospect. I mean, if it's, say it's David Reinbacher at 7, he automatically becomes our best defensive prospect, obviously. But does he become our best offensive prospect? And I think that says more to Cutter Gauthier than it says less to Reinbacher, because of how good Gauthier is. So It's exciting, man. I'm really excited to eventually get into this draft in a couple minutes, but I really don't think people realize how good of a player that we're about to end up with because of how upset.
Or two.
And this isn't, two. And this isn't like all people. This is some people that I've interacted with on Twitter. It's just take a step back and kind of understand that, hey, yeah, it's not Bedard, it's not Michkov, maybe, but we are going to get a player that is going to hopefully be an answer to a lot of fucking problems. So I'm excited. You're excited.
It'd be different if it was all on this guy, but like you said, got another guy in Cutter Gauthier coming, so it just adds to it. What really excites me about this regime, it isn't now. It's when it's go time, when it's time to win. I think when they ramp it up to 100, it's going to be something to watch. Because for years, me and you have talked about the Phillies got Bryce Harper, the Eagles, they always doing shit. The Sixers, they're going out and doing shit. When are the Flyers going to get a notable move, a headlining move that makes you go, wow, like they are going for it? And I feel like this regime could bring that to me one day. They could bring us that move because they keep stressing, when we're ready, you'll know. When we're ready, you'll know. And I really feel like we will know. They're going to make a move, albeit 2025, 2026. They're going to make a move that really wakes us up. And that's what excites me because it's been so boring for the last decade. It's just been boring. Like that's the word I'd use to describe it. They haven't committed to losing. They haven't done enough to win. It's just been boring. We're picking middle of the draft, and we're also missing the playoffs. It's boring.
Just mediocrity, right? That's just been the key word within the fan base in the last 10 years. I mean, since we've honestly really dove into them kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's disappointing, but there's light, Danny. There is light. So hold on for the next, 8 days, like I said? Yep, 8 days.
And that's what makes like a year like this year so watchable, is that there is light. Mm-hmm. There's going to be takeaways from what we see this season. And there was last season too, of course. Like there's going to be takeaways that we can bring into next season. That's what I was saying earlier, how it's just going to feel like an uphill climb now. Instead of just scratching and clawing for an 8th seed and beating mediocre, it might be like baby step forward, baby step forward, baby step forward, and then huge leap into winning, which would be a lot better to track than miss the playoffs, make the playoffs 8th seed, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs 8th seed. A lot better to track that uphill climb, growing with the team. Yeah, watching a team grow, man.
And another reason why it's better this year, to going into it at least, with all this front office changes, obviously with Briere's first trade, was that, I mean, we knew last year that we were going to go into the season and we were going to be bad, but it was different because you had a GM that you just had no faith in, like absolutely zero faith, and you knew even though, we're going to be bad, I have no faith that he's going to turn it around with the asset that he's going to collect from being bad. So now that I have a front office that I genuinely do trust, and I know it's early, the Provorov trade was good, but I still am it's just different for me personally because I'm going into this season knowing like, hey, younger guys will progress and develop because they're going to be given the chance to do so. But I also have confidence in the front office with the assets that they have going into next year's draft and next year's summer. I have confidence in them to make the right moves to get us going in the right direction, whereas I had zero, and I mean like negative confidence in the last regime to do it. So,
dude, that trade deadline was like watching a car crash. That last trade deadline, watching that unfold, I mean, we knew it months in advance that he was going to fuck that up somehow. We knew it. Somehow, some way, JVR was going to stay a Flyer. We joked about it, but we were low-key serious. Like, and it was. Like, I can't believe that. They just sat back and let that happen.
The last dagger for Chuck Fletcher's career in Philadelphia was definitely that, man. Then he had the season ticket holder meeting like, a couple days after, was just like, why is he there?
He's getting like tomatoes thrown at him and shit.
But speaking of the draft, and we're gonna get into it now, 8 days away, there is a guy named by Derek Dunn who does tremendous work for the Liberty Yell, and we love him. But recently he's had a change of heart with Ryan Leonard We've had him top 10. We've had him top 7.
This is huge. This is huge because a lot of national outlets, a lot of Flyers reporters had Leonard as the dude.
Yeah.
Like, keep an eye on this guy. The Flyers want this guy.
And he's mocked at 5 in a lot of mocks.
Yeah, riser, high riser.
Yeah. But Derek, he's had a change of heart. And there's a guy named Gabe Perreault. Perreault. Dank's definitely going to be listening. He's going to be laughing about how bad.
Hey, listen. If he gets drafted by the Capitals, who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? We'll worry about that when he's here.
But Derek is extremely high on Gabe Perreault, and we have him here to defend himself, if you will. When he's not really defending himself, but to explain himself. So, Derek, welcome.
All right, we're in. We can hear me. I'm not at the bottom of the ocean.
You do not sound like you're hanging out with SpongeBob and Patrick. No, you are good.
Fantastic, man.
So welcome.
You set me up to come right in with the hot take, right? That
right
Leonard's ass and
teed you right up. He teed you right up.
Yes.
All right. So let me start with, I'm not actually saying Leonard is ass. I'm not saying that the Flyers made a grave mistake if they select this kid at 7. Here's what I am saying. Everybody and their mother in national public prospect guru world has kind of said that Will Smith and Ryan Leonard were the driving forces of that line, and that Gabe Perreault was just kind of along for the ride. At this point, I highly disagree. I think Gabe Perreault was the offensive catalyst of that line, and it's why he led the team in points even over Will Smith. That didn't happen on accident. He didn't just pull a Kevin Hayes and collect Mickey points. No. This kid is the most efficient handler of the puck in the draft. What do I mean by that? I mean, when the puck ends on his stick, his decision-making with that puck, best in the draft. He will get you the most offense with the least amount of time with the puck on his stick. I'm going to use a specific play that I feel like encapsulates Gabe Perreault. And ironically, the whole line on this play was doing Harlem Globetrotters style shit.
It's what they do.
It's what they do. They're all fucking awesome, so this isn't Leonard's a bust and he's ass. I'm not saying that, but...
This is nothing against Leonard to add.
And the play starts with Leonard, ironically. He tees up this slap pass across the ice over to Perreault. Mm-hmm. Perreault does a one-timer pass. He one-times a pass across the ice through sticks to Will Smith, who taps it in backdoor for the easiest goal of all time. That goal only happened because Gabe Perreault has the presence of mind to know Ryan Leonard's about to pass him the puck in 3 seconds. He's already, you can rewind the play, watch Gabe Perreault's head. First he goes to Leonard, then he goes to Smith. He's registering all of this in real time before the puck ends on his stick. Then the puck doesn't even have to stay on his stick before he's setting up a goal. It is so eerily like Nikita Kucherov, it's insane. Spicy. And I don't make that comp lightly. Like, a lot of guys love to say, oh, well, this offensive-only player will help me and win the playoffs because look at Nikita Kucherov. He won 3 cups. Nikita Kucherov is so unique. He does things that other superstars don't do. He's so unique. I do not make this comp lightly. But the efficiency with which Gabe Perreault processes the game of hockey is so eerily like Kucherov. That's my pitch on Perreault. Now I'm going to do the why I'm a little bit lower on Leonard, because they're kind of interconnected.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Perreault is, and I mean, you mentioned Kucherov, and obviously you're not calling him Kucherov at this fucking stage of his career.
Right. I'm just saying that thing that he does, that processing speed on the ice is eerily similar.
And I've asked you this on, like, DMs, and with Perreault, we all know he's not the best skater in the world, right? And for you, you have confidence in the fact that he's just so advanced within processing the ice and the game speed, and in terms of elite hands and passing, that the skating honestly won't matter because of those skills, right?
Yes, it will limit him, as in he won't be able to pull a Braden Point. He won't be able to carry the puck himself, but it won't cripple him.
Mm-hmm.
He will... What Gabe Perreault is a force amplifier. He makes good players and turns them great. If you put him with a 70-point player, he will turn them into a 90-point player. I think that's what he did with both Will Smith and Ryan Leonard. Because if you look at Will Smith, this kid put up more points than Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes. Not one scout, not one person thinks he's a better prospect than Austin Matthews or Jack Hughes. Why? He had a better draft year. Because Gabe Perreault took a great player in Will Smith and he took him to the next level. That's what Gabe Perreault does for everybody. Which kind of brings me to my one concern with Leonard. What we're seeing out of Leonard in this draft year is force-amplified Leonard. It's what Leonard looks like when he has Gabe Perreault by his side, just amplifying everything he brings to the table offensively. And it looks good, but what is he like when he doesn't have Gabe Perreault? Especially if the Flyers draft him, by the way, because we do not have a corollary. We don't have anybody with this kind of vision. And like the closest we have is Morgan Frost, and Morgan Frost is a fantastic puck carrier. Gabe Perreault will never skate like Morgan Frost, but Morgan Frost could never see lanes and see the ice the way Gabe Perreault does, because very few people can, even fantastic hockey players.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he still drops? Because I agree with all of this, but I still think scouts are going to stay away from him because of the skating issues. So I still think that we can be aggressive, especially with that 22 pick, and potentially move up. Because I as much as I think in a pure skills aspect, because I really don't think the skating is as bad as people make it out to be, I think you could trade up and get him. Like, I would take him 7th or 9th or like in the top 10 based off just pure skill. But I just don't think he's going to go because of the skating issues. I really do think scouts are going to... I mean, he's has skating issues and he does not have the biggest frame in the world. So those are just two things that I think make you fall in the scouting world.
I think so, yeah. And this is my answer. Let's say I'm GM Danny Briere. Everybody and their mother, with like teams talk, we have a good idea of who's going to pick who if we're in the NHL and we're in those GMs having those conversations. We don't know for sure, but we hear shit around the grapevine, right? If I have the suspicion that the Red Wings might take him at 9, or that the Blues might take him at 10, which I don't think is out of the question at all, but if I have that suspicion, I am taking him at 7, and I'm not thinking twice about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Not because he's like premium value at number 7, but because I think the offense is special enough and the ceiling is special enough that I want that lottery ticket on my team, not on the Red Wings.
And I mean, I've said it to you. If that's the guy that's number 1 on your list, go and get him.
Yeah.
Really. Like, if this is a draft that we haven't seen in a really long fucking time, and if Gabe Perreault is there at 7, and he's number 1, go get him. I don't
That's
give
your best
a fuck.
player available. You got it. You got to pull the trigger.
And I guess I should say, I don't... Obviously, I've made this caveat before. You can still think Ryan Leonard is an amazing player for everything he does.
Oh, I still love him. I would still take him at 7 and cheese as I'm leaving the podium.
It's not. Trust me, I'm not gonna have any problems with it. I'm roasting him a bit on Twitter right now because it's fun. But in my heart of hearts, I have no problem with Ryan Leonard at 7. I think people have this idea that he is this Matthew Tkachuk guy. I think they misunderstand what Matt Tkachuk is. Like, Matt Tkachuk was a hockey genius. And even in his draft year, his draft year was the 2nd straight season in which he put up 100 points in his junior league. I don't know, everybody and their mother knew Matthew Tkachuk was a prodigy. He should have went higher than 6, but people were insane. Honestly, it was about the skating, from what I remember. That, Jesse Puljujarvi's 6'4" and skates like the wind, so let's ignore that Matt Tkachuk puts up all the points all the time.
You hear this every year.
It's every year, man. It's every year where these dudes who are ridiculously intelligent with skill level that are off the charts drops to whatever degree because we nitpick the skating. And of course, skating matters in today's game. You don't want a team full of guys who can't skate. But I do think that people nitpick the skating to where it's not as big a deal as people make it out to be. How many superstars in today's game can actually skate like McKinnon? There were like 11 100-point scorers in the NHL, and only 2 of them skated like McKinnon or McDavid. The other 9 ranged from horrible skaters to okay skaters to good skaters, but not McKinnon.
Yeah, I feel like Jack Hughes would fall like a tier like below those 2.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then you have Jason Robertson, who, looks like he learned how to skate yesterday. And will still give you the business at 100 points.
Oh, absolutely. I love Robertson, man.
I mean, a guy we're big on, Tyson Foerster. Biggest knock on him, and
dude.
I'm not regretting that pick one bit. I'm very excited.
And it's funny,
because
Perreault does remind me a little bit of Foerster. I mean, Foerster doesn't have this level of vision, but Foerster has a good amount of vision to go with his elite shot that it's like, I don't know, man.
Very. Like, dude, Tyson Foerster is an underrated playmaker.
He
and that's
really
something that, like,
is.
in his 8 games with us last year, that was something that, I mean, I knew he had it in him, but I took a step back and I was like, okay, he's a little bit more dynamic with the puck than I remember him being or thought that he was, kind of thing.
That touch pass to Provorov?
I
knew he
that's
had vision,
that's
but
something that I think of.
Put me on notice. Like, wait, hold up, you can do that?
Yeah, right. So it's interesting because it's like you said, it's not a knock on Leonard. It's just kind of, hey, pay attention to Perreault kind of thing.
Yes, especially if you're looking for a purely offensive player.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use this a little bit to like segue into Reinbacher. If you want Leonard because you think he's going to make this huge impact over 200 feet of the ice, and he might not put up star scoring seasons, but he's just going to be an all-around great player like Sean Couturier, the winger version, have no problem with projecting him to be that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's projecting him for 90-point seasons might want to double-check their work and realize just how much of a load that Gabe Perreault was carrying offensively. Like, Ryan Leonard had 40 fewer points than both of his line mates. 40. How the hell do you even manage that?
Did he play with both of them all season?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I'm
That's actually
assuming-
really weird.
I'm assuming special teams, he never lacks a minute either. Like,
Is he with them there too?
Top
I think what it
units
is, like, if you look into his data, because Elite Prospects, shout out to them, tracks a lot of this stuff. Because he plays with the Harlem Globetrotters, a lot of his, like, slot passes that most prospects, they turn into assists. With Ryan Leonard, it turns into a second pass and a third pass, and then it ends up in the net and he doesn't get points. That's some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think he's actually 40 points offensively behind Perreault and Smith, but he's definitely...
No, but that is
behind
definitely
both of them.
noteworthy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think he's like.
yeah.
I think I checked it a couple of days ago. I think it's like 32 or something like that.
Yeah, like, the offensive ceiling isn't what people think it is, which I want to clarify. Maybe he turns into a star because, like, prospects can exceed your expectations. That's allowed to happen. It doesn't happen much for the Flyers, but it's theoretically allowed to happen.
Patrick Sharp.
Yet.
Patrick Sharp, baby.
That's true. Patrick Sharp is
this
going to
that-
change our lives. Which...
What then?
I was just going to, like, quickly, I was going to say, is this that playoff bias that we see every year? Like, whoever has, like, you look at the Panthers having success, Matthew Tkachuk, is that just, oh, let's find the guy who's built the most like Matthew Tkachuk and let's just hype him the fuck up? Like, is that what you think is going on?
It's not hurting him. It's not hurting him at all.
I think it is a little bit of that. Like, Leonard was always considered a top 10 hopeful. I think Matt Tkachuk turned him into a top 10 lock and a top 5 hopeful. I think the Matt Tkachuk run took him to another level, which isn't always a bad thing. Like, the example I give is that you guys remember that Erik Karlsson run with the Senators? He had like a broken foot and he just carried that team to the Cup Finals or Conference Finals. I forget which
ECF.
one. That was the Makar draft year. And with Makar, all of Makar's supporters all said the same thing. we can make him Erik Karlsson. And they wouldn't have said that a year ago, but they said it now because of what Karlsson just did in that playoff run. It worked out with Makar. It turns out you should have listened.
Yeah.
Now, it can work out that way. Maybe Ryan Leonard actually does become Matt Tkachuk the same way Cale Makar actually did become Erik Karlsson. That's not always how it works, though. And
I feel like this is how you get the draft's biggest misses in hindsight, though. Like, when you look back years later and you're like, wow, they clearly had an agenda going into that pick. They wanted a certain fit. They wanted a certain position, a build, and they didn't go best player available.
Because you're trying to pigeonhole kids. Like, you're trying to almost pigeonhole Ryan Leonard into being the next Matt Tkachuk, even though the concept's a little weird, as in, like, Matt Tkachuk is one of the smartest players in the league. He just happens to be a dick when he's out on the ice, but he's legitimately a genius. He's not the world's greatest skater.
No,
Ryan Leonard, it's almost like the opposite. Ryan Leonard can fly. He is notably the best skater on his line. Like, he's a better skater than Smith by a fairly significant margin. I do question the hockey sense a little bit because he was 40 points behind his line mates.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame you at all. And it's definitely something to kind of question when it comes to Leonard. But at the same time, I'm still high on him.
Oh, yeah. I think we're doing our little TLY top 25. What do we have him around 10, 11?
Yeah, I think 9,
that's
10.
That's still high in this draft.
Speaking of drafts, I think before we close this up, let's do a quick top 10 mock draft for the listeners real quick. So we'll go Danny as number 1, we'll go Derek number 2, and then 3. So I mean, I'll read the team obviously out to you, and then you're the GM of that team. So we'll start with Danny number 1 with Chicago. Really hard pick here.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one. Connor Bedard. Mitch Cobb might be better, but the Canadian media has made up their mind. He's king. He's King James, the prodigy. So,
all right. So we got number 2, Ducks.
Okay, on true talent, I could see Mitchkov. I could even see Karlsson, but I'm not going there. I'm going the conventional route because Adam Fantilli is just too good of a fit on the Ducks. Like, he just makes that whole mix work.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, could you imagine a center core? What is it? They would have Fantilli, McTavish, and then who else? Who's the third?
Zegras.
Wow,
but you can move him to the wing now.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a scary young core that you would have right there with Fantilli, and I mean, it's kind of an easier pick when it comes to that because you have the quote unquote question marks around Mitchkov. I mean, we'll get into that once we start talking a little bit later into this draft, but you have a safer pick when it comes to Fantilli. You know he can play NHL hockey next year, and he might be just as good. We'll see, but
yeah,
almost the safest pick at number 2 that we've seen since like Eichel.
Yeah, and
you
that
would think?
worked out just not for the team that drafted him.
Yeah. 3, Columbus Blue Jackets. I was gonna go Will Smith here, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can pass on Leo Carlsson. I think he's too big, he's too skilled, he can skate way too well. I think
I've heard arguments that he's the best player in the draft, and I don't hate those arguments at all.
No. I mean, you can really make a case for anybody in the top 4 to be the best player in the draft, whether it's Mitchkov, Karlsson, Bedard, or Fantilli. So I just don't see them passing on him.
4 number 1 overall picks in this draft.
And I mean, honestly, I was watching Benson last night. You can make an argument 5. I mean, that kid is
maybe in a
nuts.
weak year, maybe in a little weaker year.
Yeah, that kid is absolutely insane, dude. If we land him, I will be so happy. But Montreal, 5th. Oh, I'm sorry, not Montreal. San Jose Sharks, 4th to Danny.
I want to say Mitchkov's going to drop, but I think they get him here. I think this is where Mitchkov goes. He's too damn good. It's just stupid. If you have a chance to take him and you don't get the other 3, I just think it's stupid to not do it, especially for the Sharks. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in the next year or 2? Nothing.
Everything I said about Perreault is applicable to Mitchkov, but also he is a world-class skater on his edges. Like, everybody talks about the straight line speed. On his edges, he's already Kaprizov. His edge work is nuts. So there's no skating concerns. The physicality concerns are total bullshit. He is the most talented offensive player in this draft. Purely talented, purely offensive. It's insane.
It is. It's sickening, honestly. Sixth, Derek. I mean, why do I keep doing that? Fifth, Montreal to Derek.
Oh, this is interesting.
This is interesting, dude, because I there's two players that pop in my head automatically.
Yeah. If I'm Montreal here, I know Grant McHagg loves Dvorsky at this spot, and I don't hate Dvorsky at this spot, to be honest with you. But I'm going Reinbacher here just because... Okay, so I don't want to take too long on this, but I want to defend Reinbacher a little bit because everybody's like, he's the 11th best player in the draft, and we're taking him top 5 just because, right? That's what everybody thinks. I don't think that. I don't see that. He is easily one of the best 7 or 8 players in this draft. Like, easily. Number 1 defenseman is written all over this kid. He was the best defenseman at World Juniors in his draft year. Who the hell does that? He was, and maybe not by the points, but by the way he defended, but by all the work he did in transition. He was carrying that Austria team, and he's already playing top 4 minutes for a playoff team in a men's league as a defenseman. And he's not just doing okay. He's winning those minutes. He's doing phenomenally. If you check his production, like points per game relative to other draft people, he's outpaced Jiricek in the Chechenian league. He's frankly closer to Dahlin than he is to Jiricek by points per game, and offense is his weakest suit. This kid's a stud, and he's going to be a top pair right-handed defenseman. Those are worth their weight in gold. So I'm taking him as Montreal, and I'm excited as fuck.
Big time, dude. I mean, the way you talk him up, you should be his fucking agent. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Got me, yeah, I know, dude. I want him now.
But, I mean, that's a good pick for Montreal. I had either him or Leonard. Dvorsky's definitely an option. But, yeah, those 3, definitely. I have them mocked to Montreal as well. So does that leave me with Arizona?
Yeah, it leaves you with Zona.
Arizona's definitely not going Benson because you have like 3 Benson clones already in Arizona with Cooley, Keller, and Barrett Hayton. So I just don't think that would make any sense. So I'm going to go Ryan Leonard here. I think they go big, powerful winger to pair out with Dylan Gunthier, a sniper. So I mean, I think that's a perfect fit with Arizona because I think they go defenseman if Reinbacher's there, but if that's how the board falls. The board falls Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, Michkov, Reinbacher. I think it's either Leonard. Yeah, Leonard or Dvorsky.
Like, they got enough, danglers and creators and playmakers. They got those guys. Just get somebody to get them the puck and to score when they get it. And Leonard will excel in that role. He will.
And Danny gets the Flyers.
Oh, yeah.
And Danny gets the Flyers with options, boys.
Big time options.
With options.
It's tough.
It's tough.
I think I'm going Zach Benson.
Yes, dude. I would be so excited.
I think I'm going Zach Benson. It's you're right, though. There is some names at that point. If definitely to think about. But,
who are you going back and forth between?
Obviously, I was thinking about Smith, but I was also thinking about Dvorsky. I was thinking about Dvorsky a little bit. I don't know why I have such a soft spot for this guy, but I do. I just there's something about if he was a Flyer.
Dvorsky tape is porn for like a hockey nerd. He does so many little things so well that I'd need like a whole podcast to just nerd out about all of it.
Yeah, he really is impressive. I mean, he's the youngest player in this draft, and he's playing with grown men and doesn't look out of place. I mean, people harp so much on the fact that he's not putting up Bedard numbers in a grown men's league as a 17-year-old, which is like just asinine. It's insane to fucking scream about. I mean, like,
especially because he's doing it everywhere else. Like, you
Yeah.
put him up against his age group, and he's going ham.
yeah, like the U18s that we just saw. He was like the top 3 leading scorer in that entire tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, interesting top 7. Hopefully the board lands this way. We're about an hour and 10 minutes into this, so we're going to wrap it up. Episode 97. Danny?
It was a great one. And in a week from now, we're about to have the future of the franchise. Maybe 2.
Yes.
Maybe 2.
Wait. Yeah. Before we go, real quick, before Danny wraps it up, real quick. Derek, do they make that 22nd pick? I'm going to ask both of you. Yes or no?
I'm leaning yes.
They
just
don't trade
because
it.
I think it'll be hard to find. Let me put it this way: there's 22 kids in this draft at least that I really, really want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's gonna be hard to find that kid that falls that you also get a team to agree to let you trade up for him. I think it's gonna be hard to find that match.
Yeah, I agree. I said that to so many people. I mean, this draft is just so deep. It's going to take a lot to move up multiple spots. And if you're talking 1 or 2 spots, you can work that out with a team, potentially. But if we're talking, like, 5, 6 spots, I think that's just... I don't think teams will be able to afford it or want to be able to afford it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Danny?
I think we're using the pick. I think it's a great spot to be in. I think it might not be the case in other drafts, but if you look at the board, 22, even if everything plays out perfectly, whereas best talent is just going to get ripped down from 1 to 21, I still feel like at 22 you're coming away with a guy who you're pleased with instead of paying that price. And I think this regime doesn't want to pay that price either. I think they're just I think they like the position they're in. I think they were really happy to get that 22 actually, because I think they recognize that as well. I think they make the pick.
All right. I do as well. I mean, I would love for them to package it up and potentially move up, but at the end of the day, I think you just stand pat, let whoever fall to you, who you love. I mean, they like Gavin Brindley. They talk to him. So there's a lot of interesting names that could potentially be there at 22. So I'm excited, man. Derek, I appreciate you coming on and talking a little draft. We're definitely going to have you on next week.
I appreciate being on and sounding like a human. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't sound like you're underwater. Absolutely. So definitely get you back on probably within the week because this draft is quickly approaching, boys.
Hell yeah, man. It's going to be real fun.
Heating up, got the new jerseys. Whoever gets drafted is going to put on the new jersey. It's going to be a fun night for sure.
Do you want to make I'm sorry, I apologize. Do you want to make the 4K announcement real quick right before we end it?
No, let's save that one.
Right.
It's kind of a big one.
It is a big one.
So I want to hold that one. This was a great episode 97, though. Episode 98 should be a draft special, if you will. Derek will return. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on all socials at The Liberty Yell. Follow me at TLY Danny. Follow Chris at Chris Stumps. And follow Derek at Suitable Alias.
Go Floor.